Sony has come out and given us a lot of new information about the PlayStation 5, and boy is there a lot to go over here. A lot of very exciting stuff. So I wanted to take some time here to go in more detail. I did put out a video just breaking the news that it's officially confirmed that Sony's next-gen console will in fact be called the PlayStation 5. It will be launching holiday 2020, and that they're also bringing some what they're calling new innovations to the DualShock 5 controller, which is very, very exciting. But we have even more info to go over here, and this is the stuff that I think a lot of people are really going to be looking for. This is, I think, what we could call the meat and potatoes of the info that Sony is giving out here. So Wired actually is the one that got this exclusive information, and they have a really, really, really lengthy article that I will link down below. You can read the entire thing for yourself if you're interested. I can't read the whole thing here because we'd be sitting here for like 20 minutes if I tried to do that. It's very lengthy, but there is a ton of information packed in this. So I'm going to read one section of it that has to do with Mark Cerny talking about ray tracing, which a lot of people I think are very excited to hear about this. And then after that, I'm going to refer to Push Square. They actually do a really good job in keeping track of all this PlayStation information, and they put a bunch of different bullet points of all the really important parts that Wired revealed here about the PlayStation 5. So I just wanted to give a shout out to both of these outlets because they both did a great job here, and there's just a ton of information. So starting with the ray tracing, Mark Cerny, he is the lead architect for the PlayStation 5. He had something he wants to clarify. So it says here, Mark Cerny wants to clarify something. When we last discussed the forthcoming console, he spoke about its ability to support ray tracing, a technique that can enable complex lighting and sound effects in 3D environments. Given the many questions he's received since, he fears he may have been ambiguous about how the PS5 would accomplish this, and confirms that it is not a software-level fix, which some had feared. There is ray tracing acceleration in the GPU hardware, he says, which I believe is the statement that people were looking for. So there you have it, right from Sony themselves. I know that this was a big point of discussion when we first heard about the PlayStation 5, and then we heard about Project Scarlett, and I think it was confirmed that Project Scarlett was going to have hardware-based, ray tracing, and so it was a big thing. I've seen a lot of people talking about it. I'm not going to lie, I've mainly seen a lot of Xbox fans really trying to make it sound like this is a big, leg up that the Project Scarlett, Microsoft's next-gen console was going to have over the PS5. Seems like that's not going to be the case. I've been saying it, and I'll continue to say it. These consoles are going to be very, very, very similar in almost all aspects, and I promise you that it will not matter this time around which one is going to be, and I say this, in air quotes, more powerful, because the power difference is going to be negligible. You basically won't see a difference. Mark my words on that one. Although it would be kind of funny if the PS5 ended up being the more powerful console, wouldn't it? I mean, come on, it would be a little bit funny. But getting into the other information about the PlayStation 5, some really interesting stuff here, starting with the fact that apparently the PS5 will let you choose which parts of the game you want to install. It says one of the more important aspects highlighted in Wired's exclusive deep dive into the PS5 was that the way we get to download and install games changes next generation. Instead of installing everything at once, the PS5 will let you select which pieces you'd like to play first. Speaking with Wired.com, Mark Cerny said, rather than treating games like a big block of data, we're allowing finer-grained access to the data. The website then goes on to clarify that you will be able to install the single-player portion of a game first or opt to jump into the multiplayer without downloading the solo portion of a game. Of course, you could leave either installing in the background while you jump into the latest and greatest the PS5 has to offer. So this is actually a pretty significant thing that I think a lot of us were honestly hoping to see with the next-gen consoles. I think this is something that the current-gen consoles tried to implement, but it didn't really work out. I mean, I do remember that this was supposed to be a thing to a certain extent, but going into the PS5, it seems like we're really going to have it fully fleshed out, where you will be able to literally choose whatever it is you want to access in the game. So it'll make it convenient for people. If you buy a game that has single player and multiplayer, you can just choose to do the single player or just do the multiplayer and have that installed on your console, so you don't have to worry about it taking up all that space for something you're not even using. But moving on from that, something else that was kind of low-key confirmed, but I think will be pretty significant for a lot of people, has to do with a 4K Blu-ray drive. As detailed in a new article from Wired, PlayStation 5, as it's now officially known, will feature support for Blu-ray discs, 4K Blu-ray discs. This is a step up from the PS4 and the PS4 Pro, and will allow playback of 4K content. The insightful article tells us that physical games for the PS5 will use 100 gigabyte optical discs inserted into an optical drive that doubles as a 4K Blu-ray player. In other words, standard PS5 discs are going to be pretty beefy, and the next-gen machine will have the drive to support them, plus you can watch your 4K movie collection right on your PS5, which is handy. So this is actually also really good news. It's not the biggest piece of news, it's not the biggest deal, but it is really nice to know that anybody who is interested in upgrading to the PlayStation 5, this was something that the PS4 Pro was certainly missing, and it was kind of a big deal for some people who are collectors of 4K Blu-rays, but now with the PS5, it's going to be something that will be there day and date, which is really nice, and I'm really happy about that because I do have a few 4K Blu-rays that I do own, and it will be nice to know I can play them on my PS5 if I choose to do so. But moving on to some more interesting news here, we have the PS5's user interface and how apparently it's going to be much more interactive with live information from games. If you've been wondering whether PlayStation 5's menus and interface will differ much from the PS4, it sounds like there will be some significant changes. As part of Wired's latest report on the upcoming hardware, Mark Cerny explains that you'll get live updates from your games directly in the UI of the PS5. Even though it will be fairly fast to boot games, we don't want the player to have to boot the game, see what's up, boot the game, see what's up, Cerny says, commenting on how you'd currently have to refresh yourself on a title's in-game information. On PS5, things will be different. Multiplayer game servers will provide the console with the set of joinable activities in real time. Single-player games will provide information like what missions you could do and what rewards you might receive for completing them. And all of those choices will be visible in the UI. As a player, you just jump right into whatever you like. So it goes on to say here, it sounds like you'll be able to keep up with your progress in-game without even booting it up, and you'll also be able to hop into a mission or multiplayer match straight off the bat without having to go through all the usual formalities. That is pretty crazy new idea, and I have to agree, that does sound pretty awesome. That truly does sound like a feature you would expect to get from a next generation console. So for me, one of the biggest aspects to the PlayStation 5 I'm going to be really paying close attention to is the UI. The PS4's UI, it gets the job done, but there are times where it can be slow, it can be sluggish, and there's just features it seems to be lacking or seems to be missing that clearly Sony is saving them for the PS5. So that way, for those who do upgrade, when you do upgrade, it's really going to feel like there's been some meaningful things added to the UI. I think getting the UI experience right is critical. I think it's going to be really important to the overall enjoyment of any console, considering how much you're going to be navigating it. And it's really important that it doesn't get in the way. And from the sounds of it, it seems like they're really trying to put convenience at the forefront, where being able to just get all of this information just by looking over things on the UI, that sounds really awesome. Being able to just jump right into certain games, whether it's multiplayer or single player, is awesome. So I'm really excited about that. But moving on here, we're going to be talking about the DualShock 5 or the PlayStation 5 controller. It says those over at Wired have managed to get their hands on the PS5's controller, supposedly named the DualShock 5. Now that hasn't been officially, said by Sony, but we're all assuming that's what it's going to be called. I mean, what else would it be called, right? According to the publication, it looks an awful lot like the PS4's DualShock 4, so you can expect a very similar design when compared to Sony's current gen pad. And it goes over here talking about the haptic feedback and the resistance triggers, which is something we covered in my last video, and these are the two big innovations that Sony is really kind of talking about. It also goes on to say here that apparently they had a port of Gran Turismo Sport running on the PlayStation 5, and the person who got to play it was basically saying how when they were on the edge of the track, one side of the vehicle was driving on dirt, and the other was driving on the asphalt, and you could feel the difference between each trigger. And apparently this is something Sony was considering implementing into the PS4 Pro, but they decided to hold back on it and save it for the PS5. And it does sound really cool. It also sounds like this haptic feedback is going to be way better than what we currently get with just the regular rumble and vibration in the current controllers. So some very exciting stuff. We do also have a few other small pieces of information about the controller, and I think you guys are really going to be happy to hear about some of this stuff. First, and most importantly, this is the most significant thing that people are looking for with the controller: better battery life is confirmed. Now, we don't know exactly how much bigger or better the battery will be, but surely it's going to have to be something significant, and that is, I think, music to a lot of PlayStation 4 owners' ears, because we know that this is the one area that really could become a little bit annoying with the PlayStation 4, is just how quickly the batteries in the controllers would die and you have to constantly recharge them. So that is awesome. We also know it's going to get a new speaker, so that's nice to know as well. And it does use USB-C, so hopefully that means we'll actually get like quick charge or something as well. And one last thing worth noting here is that apparently it's going to be heavier than the PS4 controller, but it's also still going to be lighter than a regular Xbox One controller. So that's pretty much all the information we currently have on not only the DualShock 4 but also the PlayStation 5. I'm sure we're going to start to get even more information going forward. I'm sure there's going to be more coming out that I may have missed out on in this video, but these are the most significant things and the things that I currently know about, and I wanted to relay this info to you guys. I know a lot of you will find it very interesting. Some very exciting stuff. I honestly feel like I am just so hyped for the PlayStation 5. I'm really excited for it, and it's going to be really interesting to see what goes on between the PS5 and Project Scarlett next year. But one thing I can say for sure is that this is Sony coming out here, getting people hyped and letting everybody know that, you know what, they are going to continue to do what they do best going into next generation. So I am very excited for that. Let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. What piece of information here did we go over that has you most excited? I will be very interested to see what you guys have to say. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it, if you're excited about the PS5, or if you found this video informative or helpful. Really helps it out, lets me know you guys enjoy the content. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to also share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.